Good morning, everyone. Kindly confirm if I'm audible or not. Yes, am I audible or not? Okay, fine. Okay, so any doubt in the previous topic that we have done yesterday? List, tuple, dictionary, string. Have you implemented the code that I have shared with you? And also, have you installed the Anaconda? Yes. Okay. So there is no doubt then? You haven't installed it. Megha, please install it. Or you can do one thing side by side if you want to do that. Install the Anaconda version. Okay, now tell me about the doubts. Is there any doubt related to the previous topic? Okay, Aditi, can you turn on the audio? Yes, Aditi. Can you hear me? Aditi, can you hear me or not? Okay, Janvi. Unmute yourself. Janvi Tikku. So no response today also? Today is the last class of the Python. So please can you make yourself interactive in the session? Yes, Janvi. So you are going to waste your time today also. Megha. Is there any student who is active? Is there any student in the class who is active? Yes, is there anyone who is going to give me the answer? So out of all these students, no one is active in the session, that I assume. Or you will say it again that today also your net is not working. I don't know what is the issue with you all. So if any of the students want to stay in this session, they can. If you even are listening to me, otherwise I'm not going to give you the attendance for today's session. Mark my words. No attendance will be given to you, any of you. So if you want to present in the session, you can. It is up to you now. Because I cannot make requests to you on the daily basis. This is not for me. Fine. So no attendance will be there for this session. If you don't want to respond, I'll just complete my syllabus that is given to me. My work is done. If you don't want to respond, you are left with your work. Okay, so we have done 4 different data structures in the last class: string, list, tuple, and dictionary. String is immutable, list is mutable, tuple is again immutable, and dictionary is mutable. These things we have discussed till now. Now, last one is set. So set we can also declare with the curly braces, as we have done in the case of your dictionary. So set is an unordered collection of the items. Every set element is unique. It means there will be no duplicate value in the set, and it must be immutable. So it is also immutable, right? So out of all the data structures, only list and dictionary is mutable. Rest of all are the immutables. But there is some different case in case of this set. Like if the elements that are present, if the set itself is a mutable, the element present inside the set is not immutable, but the set itself is mutable, right? So this is an important line, that element is unique and elements are immutable, but set itself is mutable. We can add or remove items from it. Okay. Then we also know that in the mathematical form we have perform different operation over the set, union, intersection, difference, and all. So same thing will do in the language also, programming language also. So this set, it can be created by placing all the item inside the curly braces, separated by commas, or by using built-in set function. So for every data structure, either you can create by the brackets, whatever the brackets assigned to one particular data structure, or we can do one thing, that we can make use of the inbuilt function related to that particular data structures. Like for set, there is set function; for list, there is a list; for string, there is a str; for dictionary, there is a dict. Okay. Now, if it can have any number of the items, they may be of different types. Like you can insert integer, float, tuple, string, etc. Right? But a set cannot have mutable elements. Like you can see here, it has mentioned integer, float, tuple, or string. It haven't mentioned list or dictionary. Right? So set may, whatever the elements you are going to store, that cannot be your mutable elements like list, set, or dictionary. Okay. Then how we create a set? If I want to create a set, you make use of the curly braces and then write the number of the element inside that and print the set. It will print your set. Then set of mixed data type can be created: 1.0, hello, 1, 2, 3. This is tuple, this is string, this is float value. Set cannot have multiple values. So if I have assigned a set like 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2. Now 3 is coming 2 times. So in the output, I will get only 1, 2, 3, 4. This is ordered collection. So it will give you the output in the ordered. Okay. So 3, 2 is getting repeated in this particular set. So it has given in the output only once. Then we can make a set from a list, like set function is given, list I have taken. If I will run this, I'll get a set. Okay, so if I run this, see the output. 1, 2, 3 for this particular line. This is my set. 1, 2, 3, hello. This is a mixed type of this set. Then the multiple duplicate values I have taken, but I am getting only the unique values in the output. Then with the list, I have created this set. In the list, by using the set function, I have taken a list 1, 2, 3, 2. 2 is coming 2 times. So output, I am getting only unique values. Okay. Now, suppose if I want to create a empty set, how can I do that? If I will make use like this, A is equal to this thing, and if you will check the type of this thing, it will give you the dictionary. So whenever we want to create an empty set, we cannot create directly with the curly braces, because curly braces can also be used for the dictionary creation. So it assumes that this is of dictionary type, not of your set. So whenever you want to create a set with the or the empty set you want to create, you just need to make use of the set inbuilt function. So A is equal to set. If you will check the class of this, it will give you set. Okay. Then set are mutable. Since they are unordered, indexing has no meaning. Or okay, this is an unordered collection. So if this is unordered, it means there will be no scope of indexing, right? So we cannot access or change the element of a set using the indexing. That is why element of the sets are immutables. Fine. Then we can add a single element by using add method, and multiple element by using the update method. So we have two methods to insert the value inside the set by using add and update. Add is used to only add one element, update is used to add multiple elements. Suppose this is my set, I have taken 1 3 with the element 2 elements, and this is my set 1 3. I have printed it, right? Now, if I will try to access like this, my set 0, this is what I am doing. I am accessing with the help of indexing. So it will give you me the error because this is an unordered collection set. So there is no scope of indexing or slicing into the set, right? So I cannot make use of this thing here. Now, if I want to add an element, suppose I have written my set, this is my set name, dot add 2. I want to add 2. So if I will run this, this will be added into my set. Fine. Now update is used to add the multiple elements. If I have taken a set, my set dot update, then the list. So what it will do, it will pick up the unique value because 1, 2, 3 is already present in my set and I am inserting 2, 3, 4. So it will ignore these two values and insert 4 only. So I am getting unique values in the output 1, 2, 3, 4. So it will remove your duplicacy. Okay. Again, I have taken two lists for update to insert into this 4, 5 and 1, 6, 8. So again, by ignoring the duplicate values, it will insert the value into the set. So what it is doing, update function, update method is used to insert the multiple values inside the or multiple elements inside the set, and add is used to add only one element inside the set. Now after that adding, we can also remove the element from a set. So we have two methods here, discard and remove, to remove the element from the set. Obviously there are two methods, so there will be a difference between these two methods, right? The only difference between these two is that discard function leaves a set unchanged if the element is not present in the set. Whatever the element you want to discard or remove, if that element is not present in the set, it will going to change, if it will going to unchange your set, right? But with the help of this remove method or remove function, it will raise error if the element that you are going to remove that is not present in the session set. Okay, this is the only difference. So when you can see also see one thing, the number of the data structures we have implemented till now. So suppose if for the deletion we have three methods. So there will be a difference between, like we have discussed in the pop and pop item. If the key with the help of in the dictionary, if the key that I want to find if not give present in the dictionary, so it will give error in case of the pop, and based on the argument if you haven't specified any kind of the argument, but in case of the pop item it is going to give you the no error. Okay, so there will be a difference of getting error or no error like this. Like we have done one more function, find and index. So in case of the find, if I'm finding a value that is not present, it will give you -1, and in case of the index, if I'm finding that value that is not present, it will going to give you the 0 or error, sorry, not 0, error. Okay. Then suppose this is my set 1, 3, 4, 5, 6 I have taken now. Discard an element. 4 I want to discard. So 4 is already present, so it will going to give me the 1, 3, 5, 6 as a result. This one 1, 3, 5, 6. Okay. Then remove an element. 6 is not present in this one, so it is going to give you the error. My set dot remove. If I'll do print my set dot remove, it will going to give me the error. Oh, I haven't done that, so I'm only get this my set 135. Okay, 6 is present. 6 is there in your set 1356. Okay, so by removing, after removing this, it will going to give me the set. Now discard the element that is not present in my set. Like suppose if I want to discard 2. So if I want to discard 2, it will going to give me the set only. Like see, you can see here 135. It is not going to give me the error. But in case of the remove, if I want to remove an element that is not present in my set, I'll get the error. So I have keep this thing in the comma in the comment, because if I will remove the comment and run this command, it will give you the error. Like let me run this. If I run this now, I'll be getting the error like this. You can see here my set dot remove 2 key error. Okay, fine. Now there is also a pop method. We can remove and return an item using the pop method, like we have done in the dictionary and the list also. Since our set is an unordered data type, so there is no way of determining that which item will be popped, right? So it is completely arbitrary to remove the item from the set. We can also remove all the item by using the clear method. So we have a clear method in this set also. Okay, so suppose my set is equal to hello world. This is the elements string I have taken, and with the help of this string I want to create the set, right? So my set will be this DELOHHWR, hello world. Now you can see it has removed the duplicate letters, like L is coming 2 times, O is coming 2 times, L is coming 3 times, O is coming 2 times. So it has removed these values. Only one time the occurrence it has taken, and this is the element of my set. Okay. Now pop an element. So it will pop the random element. My set dot pop. It has popped the D. Right. So whenever we are going to pop with the help of whenever we are going to remove with the help of pop in set, it will going to remove any of the random value. This is not guaranteed that this particular element is going to be removed. Okay. If you run again, pop the another element, you will get the another output that is also removed. Like if I will print my set, now it has removed E from that set. Okay. Okay, now the next is clear. My set dot clear, it will going to remove all the elements inside set. So if after I'll print my set, it will just print like this: set, empty set, empty set. I have written this 2 times. Okay, now we have different set operations. Set operations, union, intersection, difference, symmetric difference. These are the set operations we have, and also we have intersection on update, intersection on intersection underscore update, intersection difference underscore update, union underscore update. So there will be a difference between simple intersection and intersection update. There will be a difference between difference, simple difference, and the difference underscore update, right? So what will be the difference? Suppose I'll start with the first one. Set union method. Initialize A. I have initialized 2 set. A is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. B or one line, straight line. You can also make use of this symbol, or we can do one thing, that we can simply write the union function, A dot union B. Okay, so what is the difference between the simple union and union underscore update? Like suppose I have implemented this print a underscore b, fine, or print a dot union b. So whatever the changes will be there, changes is only in this particular statement, not in the original set. Okay, set a will remain same, set b will statement is giving me the result of the union. But what happened with the union update? Suppose if I have written a dot union underscore update b, right? Like you can see here, um, print a b. This is the result of this string union by using the symbol, by using the function. This is the output. Then b dot union a, again going to give you the same result, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Then I have performed the intersection out of these two, a and b. Intersection can be performed with the and symbol. Okay, so and symbol के साथ we can perform the intersection, and by using the intersect function also, inbuilt function. Then b dot intersection way will going to give you the same output, these three values. Then we have difference, 1 2 3 4 5 4 5 6 7. We know that difference of two set mean if I am doing a minus b, whatever the different element in a have, that will be my output, and the common element from a and b will be removed, right? So a minus b will going to give you me the 1 2 3, because 4 5 is also present in this set. So either you can make use of minus operator, or you can also write the difference, right? Now see the difference. Now a minus b is giving me 1 2 3, a dot difference b is giving me 1 2 3. But if I will print a and b after that, you can see there is no change in the set, right? But now if I will run this thing, my a set is 1 2 3 4 5, b set is 4 5 6 7. So I run this thing. Now see the difference. A dot difference update underscore update b. It is, what is the meaning of this skyline? Whatever the difference I will calculate, changes will be reflected back into a, because I am doing a dot difference b, right? Difference underscore update. So this is the difference between a simple operation union intersection difference, and the another operation union underscore update intersection underscore update and difference underscore update. Whatever with the syntax I'm writing, a dot union underscore update b, so changes permanently going to reflect in the a set. Okay, so now see, A set is 1 2 3 and B set is 4 5 6 7 8. Only this is the difference between these two functions. Then we have symmetric difference. Symmetric difference if of A and B set, it is a set of the element in A and B, but not in both. So it is basically excluding the intersection. So if I do like this, and this can be solved with the help of XOR operation. What we do in the XOR, only different element we are getting the output, and in case of the okay, so till the time we have done. Now symmetric difference, after that we have performed b minus a also. Okay, so symmetric difference, if I'm talking about, I have two elements set 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If I'll calculate the A XOR B, it will be going to give me the result. The 4, 5 that is common, it is not going to be there in the output, but rest of the element will be there in the output. So 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8 I will get, not the common element. So either you can make use of the XOR symbol or you can write symmetric underscore difference. Either you want to perform AB or BA. Okay. Then copy method is also there in the set. Suppose I have taken a set 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the set I have taken, right? New number in the, this is by with the help of assignment operator, item assignment. I am doing the copy concept. So numbers, whatever the element present in the number, that is now present in the new number. Now if I am adding 5 inside the new numbers, so it will going to affect into the previous one also, original set also, and the updated, the new set also. So 5 is adding 5 is being added into both of the set. But if I'll make use of this copy function, it will create a shallow copy of the set, and whatever the changes I'll do, it will be there in the new copy only, not in the original one. This is the only way of using the copy function, despite of copy the element with the help of assignment operator, right? It work on your shallow copy. So you can see here, I have added on the copy, add 5. So it has added into the copy only, not in the original set. So this is all about your set data structure. Now I'm going to share this thing also with you. So if you want to save, any doubt? Okay, so we are done with the basic concept of the Python, the data types, operators, and the different data structures we have in the Python. Okay, so all these things are done. Now I'll start with the functions and the classes we are left with, function, classes, and the file handling. This is the topic we left in the Python. Then we have some advanced topic also, that will not be covered in this particular camp, because we need to discuss only the basic things with you. But if you want to elaborate your area in the Python, you can go with the libraries like NumPy we have, Tkinter we have for the graphics, and then we have Pandas. All these libraries present that will make use of the, or we can also do the data visualization in the Python in a very good way or a very easy way by creating the graphs. So that's are also in the syllabus of the Python, but it will not be covered here. Okay, fine. So I'll start with the functions. You already know that functions are used to create these or used to perform this specific task, right? This is the scope of the function, that is used to perform some specific task, and function will help you to break the program into the smaller and the modular chunks. As we know that our program can grow larger and larger, so function will make it more organized and in a manageable way, right? And it also avoid the repetition, and it make the code reusable. Like by calling the function, you can make your code reusable by just using 2 or 3 lines, right? So in the function, in the Python, the function can be created by using the def keyword, def, define. It stands for define. So def keyword is the reserve word also. You cannot declare variable by using def. Okay, it is a reserve word, keyword. So by using this def, we can make use of function. What is the syntax? First of all, write the keyword def. After that, write the function, and then write the brackets to pass the parameters. Okay, after that you need to mention the colon. Now why the colon? Because I have already told you the colon will give you the block for that particular position. So this is the block of this particular function. Okay, indentation is there. So after writing the double column, if you will press, enter, print statement will print here. Now if, and after that, after coming out of this scope in the same direction where the function is defined, if you can want to call the function, you can simply write the function name and then mention the brackets if there is nothing is passed in the parameter, right? So there is also two type of the parameter, actual parameters and the formal parameters. Can anyone tell me what is actual parameter and what is the formal parameters? Okay, so if I will run this program, let me clear the screen first. So what it has done, it has printed hello world inside the function export. This is the output for the another one, for this one. So if I will run now, I'll get this output, hello world. Okay, so you can create a function by using the def keyword, then write the function name, whatever the function you want to provide, then write the brackets if you want to provide any, or if you want to pass any parameter, you can do that. Otherwise, you can leave blank. Then print the statement, whatever the document string you want to write. So here we will write doc string. Document string will tell you about the information of the, it is basically the first string after the function header. This is my function header. Whatever the statement or the string you will write here, that is your document string. So it is doc string we call, stands for the document string, and it is briefly used to explain what your function is going to do, right? Although it is a optional one, but if you will write, your documentation will be better, because if the third person is watching your program or looking at your program, by looking at the document string, he will come to know that what is the function is saying about. Okay, so this is for only that purpose. And we will write the document string by writing this in triple time double quotes, or the same way we write the comments. This will be my double like print only. This is, I'm saying, this is my document string. Okay, and if you want to access the document string, suppose if I have written this thing like this, after writing this, I am writing my document string, and if I want to print my document string function, sorry, print function and double underscore doc double underscore. These are the specials that I have already told you. We have some special functions or the built-in functions available that has special purpose. So this is also one of that. So if I'll run this, okay, I forgot to write dot. Bracket will not be there because I'm just calling the doc of that. I'm not calling any value. So that is why it has taken in that way. So now you can see hello world is what my function is printing. Output of this one, when I have called this function, it has print the statement that this is my statement, and print only this is my document string. So if you want to access the document string, you can just write the function rate dot and then write double underscore doc double underscore. This will give you the output to you. Hello world and print only. This is the document string. Okay. Then this is my function without return statement. We know that return statement is also we can use in my functions to return something, right? That is the optional one. If you want to write, you can. Otherwise, you can also ignore that in the functions. So the next example I have taken, it is of subtraction. I want to subtract two values. So I have created a function for that. Def is the keyword, then sub is the function, AB the argument I have passed. Now I have passed the argument. This I have explained without the argument. So I have passed two argument whenever I have declared the function. So whenever I want to call the function, I need to pass the two argument only. I cannot pass one if there is another type of the thing I have used, or I cannot pass more than two. Whatever the argument I have passed in the declaration of the function or the definition of the function, that I need to pass only in the calling of the function also. So I have created this function, and then what I am doing this function, c is equal to a minus b, right? And what I am printing, a is a. I am printing the value of a, and then c. Sub is 93. Here I am calling the function. So what it is going to give? One, first of all, it is going to calculate 9 minus 3, 6. Then I will get print A is 9, and then print C 6. So this is the output I am getting. A is 9 and 6. And this one is the output of the previous one. Okay. Now in the next one, I have designed the function with the help of return. So either you can return the value with the help of this print function if you want to do not want to make use of the return statement, or you can simply do like I have created this sum. I haven't passed any value in the argument. Simply I have taken value here, a is equal to 10, b is equal to 10, c is equal to a plus b, and then return c. And after coming out of this function, I am calling the function by using the print statement. Print sum is this. So if I'll run this, I'll get the value. Sum is 20. Okay. Then without return, if I want to implement the same function, then how we can do that? Same function without the return statement. Okay. Now, I have taken the same function a 10, b 10, c is equal to a plus b. In the print statement, I'm just calling the function. So what it is going to give me? Sum is none, because I haven't returned anything. I don't know what is return. C is how to get the value of C. I'm just calling the function here. C is equal to a plus b. Where to store C? So either use a print statement here, print C and something else, or either write the return keyword. Okay. So if I'm going to run this function without the return, it is going to give me the none value. Then the next concept in the Python function is the different type of the arguments we can pass in the function. Okay. So the first thing is required argument, positional argument, keyword argument, default argument. These are the different type of the arguments we have in the function. So first of all, I'll just discuss about the required argument with you. So required argument means okay. Required argument means if I have passed the argument at the time of calling, I need to pass the argument at the time of if I have passed the argument at the time of declaring the function or defining the function, then I need to pass the argument at calling of the function also. Okay, how? Let's see. I have again taken the same example sub a b. I have passed two argument and I'm calculating c is equal to a minus b print c. Right now, okay. I forgot to tell you one thing also. How to take input from the user in the Python. Right. So I'll discuss this thing same here. Input function is used to take the input from the Python from the user. Okay, with the help of the input function, we can take input from the user. So you will simply write a is equal to input, enter the first number. Here I have mentioned int also because by default your input function is going to take string values only. So if I'll simply write here a is equal to input in enter the first number, b is equal to input enter the first number. So a and b will be taken as a string and I cannot perform a minus b over that because we know that over the string we can perform only two operation concatenation and the repetition. And if I'll do a plus b, so it is going to simply join that two values 9 3. Like suppose if I'll remove this thing, let me tell you the difference also, right? And here I am doing just a plus b. This is the thing I am doing, right? Now, if I run this, enter the first number it is saying, suppose I have entered 5, then second number is 6. So it is giving me 5, 6, 56, not 11. Why? Because I have written here a is equal to input, enter the first number. The input is giving by default string value from user. So that is why if you want to take any other data type except this string, you need to mention that data type here. So that is why I have written int, because we need to mention that I want to take integer value. If you want to take float, write float here. Okay. So now if I'll do a minus b, it is going to give me the value. Enter the first number 6, 4 I am getting. Okay, either you can take the user value or you can directly pass the value here. Like if I am doing this like this, six comma 2. So again I'll get the value. Now, what is the role of this required argument? Suppose I have given two argument declaration and I forgot to give value at the time of calling. So it will going to give me the error that sub missing two required positional argument A and B. So I need to pass the value here. Okay. I hope this is clear now. Then the next type of the argument we have keyword argument. Keyword arguments mean we can provide a keyword like what is the meaning of this required argument. Required mean if I have passed a comma b and here I am giving suppose sub 6 comma 2. So by default this 6 is going to have a is going to have 6 value and b is going to have 2 value by default. This is required argument. not required. This is the positional example of positional argument, right? Because whatever the order, in which order we have defined the argument at the time of the declaration, at the time of the calling the function, it will going to give going to be assigned to that particular argument in that in on the same order. Like 6 is going to have A, 2 is going to be have B, right? This is positional example of positional one. So what we can do in the keyword argument, suppose I have again this thing will be the same, def C A B C A minus B print C. Now I just want to do one thing, like here I have taken B is equal to 3, A is equal to 9. So I have given a keywords here, said B is having 3 value and A is having 9 value. Despite I have taken 3 and 9 first, or despite I have taken B and A. अगर मैंने इसको सिर्फ सिंपली ऐसे लिखा होता 3,9, so automatically 3 will go to A and 9 will go to B. But now I have mentioned the keywords that B is equal to 3, A is equal to 9. So this is my example of keyword arguments. Okay, just going to ask me the value again and again. Okay, 6 I am getting now. 9 minus 3. Fine. So this is keyword. We can assign keywords and change the role of positional arguments. Then the next we have default argument. Now what is the scope of this default? In the required, what we have discussed, if 2 arguments are passed, 2 I need to give in the calling time also. Right? Now what happens in case of the default? Suppose I have declared these 2 functions, right? Sum is equal to sum A comma B is equal to 5. So at the time of the declaration, whenever I am giving a value to argument, it means I have given a default value for B, right? So in case now if I'll write like sub 9, I don't write the value for B, so it will going to give me the result. In the required, suppose if I haven't done this thing, first of all, just let me make this in the comment, because this is again and again going to ask me to enter the value. So I'm just going to implement this thing. Okay. So what happened in case of the string, the required? Suppose I have mentioned like this only, A comma B, right? Now I am passing the 2 values here. So obviously it is going to run successfully, but in case of this, it is going to give me the error. Let me run. C, sub missing one required positional argument. So it is not running right now. It is giving me error that I need to enter one more value, because at the time of the definition of the function, I have passed 2 values. So I need to pass one more value here. What we do in the default, suppose I have assigned a default value to B, right? So since I have defined a default value to B, so if now I want to run and I have implemented only one value here, passed one value, and I haven't passed the value for B, so by default it is going to take this value. So in this case, whenever I have passed 2 value, this default value will be override with the passed value. It will now do 9 minus 3. But in case if I haven't passed the value for B, so it will going to take the by default value and going to do 9 minus 5. So the 2 results I'll get 6 and 4. You can see here. Okay. So this is about your default argument. Then we have variable length argument. Now what happened in the variable length argument? Suppose in the required, what we are doing, whatever the number of argument we are passing, that number the argument I need to pass in the calling or time also, right? So we are having only fixed number of the argument. So what we do here, what we are doing here, def the function name, and star I have taken star names. Star names, what is the meaning of this star names? It means the names, whatever the argument, one argument I have taken, star means zero or multiple occurrence. Okay, so this names argument we can come number of the times according to the user choice. So according to the value I'll pass at the time of calling, it will change the requirement of the argument according to that only. Like you can see, print names. This is the argument I have passed with the star, right? After that, I'm printing the type of names. Whatever the type it will give you, I'll print that. It is giving me the error in the line 256. Let me do that. Okay. You can see it is giving me class tuple, because what we are doing here actually, it is a immutable sequence. You can see here, this is a immutable sequence. If no argument is given, the constructor return an empty tuple. If iterable is specified, the tuple is initialized from iterable's item. So whatever the things we are going to give here, this is treated as a tuple, number of time. Okay, so now I'll check the type, it will give you type. Now what I'm doing, I'm traversing these whatever the number of argument I have passed, I'm going to traverse this with the help of for loop. For I in names, print I. So whatever the number of values I have, it is going to traverse into with the help of that. So in the first thing, I have taken three values, three strings: Tanu, Dhiman, Payal. Right, these are the three strings I have taken. Now I'm going to pass, so it will going to read one by one. First, for I in names, first it will read Tanu, in the second line it will read Dhiman, then in the next line it will give Payal. So I am going to get the result in this way. Okay, in the second time of the calling, I have given only two values. Fine, so the two values I have given, again it has print the type tuple and A and B, and the last one I have taken again the number of values. So again it is going to first print the type of the tuple and these number of the values. So this is the scope of your variable length argument. Number of argument you can pass at the time of the calling, and the declaration of the function will behave according to that. Okay. Then next we have variable length keyword argument. This is just a variable length argument. Now we have variable length keyword argument. So the only difference is that we will make use of the double asterisk sign now and k names. Okay, let me remove this first. Okay. K names, right? So if I will run this and get the type of 255 line again. Okay. Six. And 68. Okay, let me check the comments. is giving the error. This. Okay. Line 161. Okay, fine. So now what I have done, this is the output I am getting. Okay, so whenever we are making use of the variable length argument, it is giving me the type of tuples. Whenever we are making use of the variable length keyword argument, it is taking the type as a dictionary. Why? Because what we are doing, we are giving the value like this. So I know that a is equal to 3. This is my key, this is my value, this is my key, this is my value, this is my key, this is my value. That is why the type of this is dictionary. Key value pair I have given here, right? So again, this is going to behave in the same way. The only difference is that the type will change. Dictionary. So keyword argument means we are giving the value also, that A is Tanu, B is Diman, C is Payal, X is equal to A, C is equal to B. Only difference is that. Rest of the program is same as to variable length argument. Then we have recursion. Recursion means calling the function again and again. So by the example of this recursion, we will simply take an example of factorial, how to calculate the factorial. So I have designed a function of factorial. I hope everyone know that what is factorial. If I want to calculate the factorial of 5, so it will be calculated plus 5 comma 4 comma 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1, right? So in the factorial, if the number is 1, then factorial will be 1 only. If number is greater than 1, then I need to put the formula that a into factorial of a minus 1. So it is this thing, factorial of a minus 1, this is again going to call this function again, then it will going to calculate this. Till the time it is going to calculate, till my value will become a is equal to 1. Okay? So if I'll run this, enter the number for which you want to calculate the factorial. Suppose I want to calculate for the 5. So it is giving me 120. Okay. So this is, now let me make all other things as this comment. Okay. Now I'll start with one more function available in the so in the functions we have some built-in functions and some the user-defined functions. Like built-in functions we have discussed so far, like we have print built-in function, then we have different built-in functions discussed in the string, in the list, dictionary and all, and the user-defined functions that are created by the user with the help of this def keyword. So these functions that we have discussed till now, that all are your user-defined functions. Okay. So in the functions, next we have the type is anonymous function. Anonymous function means no name will be there for that particular function, and this thing can be explained, or this thing can be evaluated with the help of lambda. Right? What is the syntax for the lambda function? We will write the keyword lambda, then argument, whatever the argument we want to pass, and then the expression. So in the one single line, we can evaluate the function. Right? So next we have, okay. Now why we are using these anonymous functions and all? Because this Python, obviously anonymous means it is going to define without a name, and the whatever the functions we have discussed till now, we are defining that function with the keyword def keyword. Okay, this anonymous function can be defined by using the lambda keyword. This is the first difference. And the syntax I have already discussed, lambda, argument and expressions. So lambda function can have any number of the arguments, but it will run only one expression at a time. So we can pass any number of the arguments here, but my expression will be one. So suppose I am taking a simple example here. A is equal to lambda, and A is equal to lambda x, y, z. Three argument I have passed, and this is the expression x plus y plus z. So what I'm doing, I'm just adding three numbers and print A 3 4 5. So if I will run this A 3 4 5, this is a function I have called. If I run this program, I will get 12. 4 plus 3 7, 7 plus 5 12. Okay, so in this way, one single line we can make use of the lambda function. So what is the use of lambda function is the type of in the Python. Whenever we require a nameless function for a short period of the time, we can make use of the lambda functions, right? Or in the Python, we can say we can also use it as an argument to higher order functions, or the functions that take in other function as the argument. In that scenarios, we can also make use of the lambda function. For the basic use is that whenever you need a nameless function and you need a function for the short period of the time, you can make use of the lambda function. No need to declare that def keyword and then define the function if you're just using that for the short period of the time. Okay, then this lambda function can be used with the filter and map. Now, what is this filter function? Filter function take in the Python, take in a function and a list as an argument, and this function is called with all the item in the list, and a new list will be returned which contain item for which the function is evaluated to. Right? Suppose I have created a filter function. First of all, I have taken a list. A is equal to 1 से लेके 10. 1 to 10 elements I have taken in the list. Now I am creating a list, because what this is going to give me, this is going to give me return a list only. So for the filter function, list के अंदर I have implemented the filter lambda x percent 2 is equal to 0 comma a. So on a list, I am applying this function. This is the expression I want to evaluate. This is the argument I have passed. It means I am filtering the only even values from this particular list. So if you want to extract the even values, odd values, prime values, or anything else based on the condition, you can also make use of the filter function with the lambda. And you will get your output in the list. So if I'll run this, I'll get only the 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 even values. Okay, getting it? Then we have a map function. This function is called with all the item in the list, and it is again going to return you the list which contain the item contain the item returned by that function for each item. Like we can use a map function to double all the item of a list. We are mapping to that particular thing, right? So suppose I have done here the same thing, map function. I have taken a list 1, 2, 3, 4, list map lambda x is equal to x into 2. So what I am doing, whatever the value present in the A list, I am multiplying all the values with the 2. Right? So it will give double the all the values like this. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 16, 18, 20 to 20. So mapping will give you the mapping the value by using any kind of the expression you want to do. Okay. Then not last but not the least, we have the scope of the variable in the function. So we have two type of the variable, global variables and the local variables. Global variables means obviously the variables that we are going to declare globally or outside of the function, and its scope remain till the program execute, and the local in the inside the function only, right? So I'll take first example of the global variable. Def x is equal to 2. This is a function, this is a variable I have declared outside of the function. So this is my global variables. Okay, now I have declared a function fucnt1, and inside the function I have declared a variable. So this variable is having a local scope only. Now I want to print inside the function y, print the value of y, and inside the function x, print the value of x. Fine. Now I'm calling the function. After that, print outside the function x, inside the function y. Now see what happened. See, the y I have declared inside the function and x I have declared outside the function. So scope of the x remain inside the function also and outside the function also. So if I am writing a statement here inside the function, it will access the value of x successfully, and here also outside. But in case of the y, it will run successfully here because inside the function I'm calling. But if outside the function I want to access the value of y, it will give me error like this: name y is not defined. Clear? Is this clear? Okay, then now what we are doing, we the another example is that this is a simple example, global or local. Now see what happened. What I have done, I have taken a global variable, right? Then I have declared a function. Then I am doing inside a function x is equal to x plus 2. I have declared a variable outside, but inside the function I am making changes to that particular thing, that particular variable. So it is going to give me the error. Okay, because this is not this function is not going to get to know that for which x I am doing these changes, right? Because according to this, it is whatever the modification we will perform over the local variable only. So if I am doing any kind of the modification inside the function and doing the modification over the global variable, then it will going to give me the error. Okay, so how we can improve this thing, that if I want to change the changes inside the function to the global variable, we can make use of the global keyword, right? How we can do that? By writing the global x. So it is now know that this x has referenced the global x. So it will take the value of x as a 2, then it will do x is equal to x plus 2, and I'll get my value. Inside the function x is 4, and outside the function x is again 4, because the changes is reflected now to the original x value. Okay. So this is all about the functions in the Python. So let me share the code with you now, all the code of the function. Now we left with our classes and the file handling, right? So if the syllabus will be over within the time schedule given, then it is fine. But if not, then I'll take one extra class of yours. Okay. So try not to waste my time by calling your names again and again. If I'll ask anything, just respond on a time. Otherwise, I need to take your extra class for that. uh, I'll just take a break of 1 minute, not a break. Actually, I'm giving you a time that go through these things, whatever the thing we have discussed till now. If there is any doubt, ask. Otherwise, I'll move to the class concept. If there is any doubt, ask. Otherwise, I'll move to the next concept. That is your classes. If no doubt, then you can put a message in the message box. No. Okay. No response again. Thank you for that. So I'll move ahead with the next topic then, because I can see that how much you are interested in the Python subject. Glad. Okay, fine. So the next topic we have is the class. You are already familiar with the class concept. You have done the C or C++, as I have asked you on the first day that you are familiar with the C or C++ concept. So you must familiar with the OOPS concept also, object-oriented programming. So OOPS is basically a fundamental concept, or as we know that Python is a multi-paradigm programming language, so it support different programming approaches also, and one of the approach is object-oriented programming, right? So an object has two characteristics: the attributes and the behaviors. I'll just take an example of that. Suppose a parrot is there, and parrot is an object, and it has the following properties, like it has a name, age, color as their attributes, and behavior is that it can sing and it can speak also. Okay. So the concept of OOPS in the Python is basically used to focus on creating the reusable codes, right? And this concept is also known as DRY, don't repeat yourself. So in the OOPS, the concept in the Python, it has some basic principles like class, object, then instance, abstractions, methods. All these are the inheritance. All these are the properties of the, or we can say the concepts in the of OOPS. Okay. Now, what is class? Class is basically a blueprint for the object, or we can say the external structure of the object, right? Like we can, I have given you the example of the parrot, so we can think of a class as a sketch of the parrot with labels. It contains all the details about the name, about the color, about the size, and based on their description we can study about the parrot. So here parrot is an object, and the blueprint of parrot is known as the class, right? So how we are going to define a class in the Python? First of all, we'll write a class keyword with the small letter CLASS. Then we write the class name, and then the double column, and then we write the body of the class, whatever the statements you want to print. You can also make use of the pass statement if you don't want to mention anything in that. Okay, object is an instance of a class. Whenever a class is defined, only the description for the object is defined. Therefore, no memory will be allocated. Like suppose if I'll do like this, a is equal to a. So this is the object I have created of a class in this line. This is the object created. Okay. So here a, small a is the object of the class. Now suppose we have detail of the parrots. So we are going to show how to build the class. How to build the class and objects of the parrot, right? So we can say, like I have written here, this class is having the gender is equal to f. So I have given the attribute gender is equal to f. Okay, and this is known as def double underscore init. Initially it means initialize. So this is the, again double score के साथ लिखा है, तो it means this is the special function inside the Python. Self, I have already told you, it is calling itself. Okay. So this init method of the class, it is an initializer method that is first run as soon as the object is created. So as soon as I have created this object, after creating this is the first method that is going to run. So inside that, whatever I have taken, I haven't, if I have mentioned only self here, it means by default it is mean that I am not passing anything. This is the calling itself a. Okay, so self dot name, this is a way of passing the values, that this is referencing itself. A dot name, it means is equal to Tanu and id is equal to 2. So I have created the instance variable also. Instance is my object and this is the variable for that. Okay, so now just let me do all other things in the comments first. Okay, so this is the basic introduction to the class. If I will run this, let me first clear all other things. Now, if I will run this, you can see what I am getting. I have declared a object here. B, two object I have created, A and B. Now what I'm doing, A dot name with the object I'm calling the function, this thing A dot name, I have given a value here. A dot name is equal to Dhiman. Okay, so this will override this particular value now by default value that I have given. And A dot gender, with the help of the class, I am calling the gender is equal to M. So what will do, print A dot name, A dot ID, A dot gender. So A dot name is Dhiman now, A dot ID is 2 and A dot gender will be M, because I have changed the gender of class also. Okay, so whatever the variable declare inside the class, that is your class variable, and whatever the variable declare inside the init method, that is your instance variable. This is also one of the difference. Okay. I hope this self is also clear. The first argument of the function in class is the object itself. That is why it is written self. It is representing the object A. Right? Despite of writing self, you can name it anything according to you. I have written the name, and many of the books have written the name self, because From the name, it is clear that it is calling itself. So this is object itself. Otherwise, if you want to give any other name, you can also do that. That is up to you. And this is also you referenced as a constructor. In the C++, you have heard about the constructor. This is one kind of the instructor. Automatically called whenever the object is created, right? Then the types of the method, we have instance method, we have class method, we have static method. These type of the methods we have in the class, right? So now let me, okay, see what happened now. I have again created a class student in which I have taken a class variable college is equal to CU, and after that I have created a constructor init method initializer self, it means objective self, and these two arguments. Now don't confuse here, like you have passed three argument here. These are not three argument. This is only the referencing itself. Only I have passed two argument. So whenever I'm going to call, I need to pass only the two arguments. Don't get confused here. Okay, so self.m1 is equal to m1, self.m2 is equal to m2. I haven't declared any particular value here because I'm going to pass the value at the time of calling. Now after that I have declared an average function. No argument passed, only it is the method. Now that is the method I have function I have declared after the instance method of this initializer class. This method is known as the instance method. Whatever the class method, if I'll create, there is a significance between difference between the class method and the instance method. If the method after declaring the def initializer, this is kind of my we can say constructor. So inside the constructor, after the constructor, if I'm going to simply just going to declare a function, that is my instance function or instance method. But if I want to declare a class method, I need to make use of this decorator, @class method. If any of the method is defined in such a way, and after that there is a function or method defined, then you will get to know that this is my class method. Okay. And the static method is also a simple one. So time is over now. I'll discuss the rest of the thing in the next class. I hope there is no doubt if any of you is listening there. So I'm binding up the session. Meet me at 11:30.